forecast for the week of February 5th, 2023. It's not what I would call the hottest week in the skies. We'll talk about that in a second, although it begins with a fiery Leo full moon on Sunday. I don't know if Sunday is a day that lights things up all that much in the social sphere, but this one's got a shot at it. So look to Sunday. If you're watching this a little bit earlier, Sunday the 5th, Saturday night the 4th, and so on, you catch the wonderful energy of that Leo full moon. Then, as the week progresses, we go through the Virgo moon, a slightly waning Virgo moon, and then a Libra moon. We're sort of moving towards a little bit more of the settling in after the full moon. And then we get to the end of the week and we have the Scorpio at the very end of the week, we have the Scorpio last quarter moon. Now, this week may not be particularly hot in the skies, but that doesn't mean that things aren't going to be happening down here. First of all, the astrological forecast like this gives you the overall weather, right? The general degree of excitement and the overall amount of motion that is going on for most folks in the collective. And that's kind of what creates the weather. Now, in your chart, of course, you might have something, really dramatic happening. These calm aspects might really hit your chart in a very direct way. And so a lot could happen for you. And of course, the charts of countries and their leaders and things like that are also part of the equation. So I'm not saying that it's going to be a quiet week. I'm saying that on average, we're sort of settling down after the full moon. Now, we do have one aspect that is going to be heating things up a bit, and that happens on Friday when Mercury has his meeting with Pluto right at the end of Capricorn. Now, Mercury-Pluto meetings tend to be about speaking the truth to power. Here comes Mercury, little Mercury, with the wings on his helmet and on his feet and stuff like that. And he goes right up to Pluto, the god of the underworld, and says, guess what? And now, Mercury might be delivering a message to Pluto, or might be getting a message from Pluto to deliver back to the rest of us. What it basically means, if we want to just sort of, just practicalize the whole thing, is that on Thursday, Friday, maybe into Saturday of next week, around the 9th, 10th, 11th, you're very likely to see folks being very direct. Here comes what I have to say. I'm not really, if this is happening in Capricorn on top of all, so I'm not really pulling any punches. This is a very, this is what you need to hear kind of thing, and I'm saying it sort of energy. It's not the kind of thing where people are going to be indirect about things, and it's good. It's nice to have people being direct about things, isn't it? Yeah, it's pretty okay most of the time. So that's towards the end of the week. We have this sort of direct energy. No sooner does Mercury meet with Pluto at the end of Capricorn than he goes into Aquarius. And there we have, that's Mercury's favorite sign. And then it becomes all about sharing the intellectual ideas, big picture stuff, taking an overview kind of thing. That's the way that the collective discussion starts to move. But we're liable to pick up, and even when Mercury goes into Aquarius, we're likely to be processing information that comes at us in a little bit more direct way towards the end of the week. If someone is being a little bit too blunt with you, or if you find yourself being a little too blunt with someone else, you sort of take it in stride and say, well, that's the astrological weather. That's what's happening. This is where we're tending these days. And so you maybe don't take it so personally. That's kind of the value of these forecasts, right? Because as I said, your chart may be getting something that is more dramatic, or on a day when we say there's something very dramatic happening, it may be that it's in a nice aspect in your chart and it all just sort of floats by you, or leads to something wonderful. So it's not so easy to say this is what's going to happen. It is easy to say this is the mood, this is where the tendency lies for a lot of folks. Now, it's not all about, speaking truth to power and these big questions and so on, or even just people being a little crabby and overly direct at the end of the week. There is some other stuff going on that is worth paying attention to. Among those things, I would say the sextile of Venus to Uranus on Wednesday. Really, it's early on Wednesday. So I would be thinking that this is probably a Monday, Tuesday energy, is something worth paying attention to. When Venus and Uranus get into a nice harmonious aspect like this, then we have the opportunity to make shifts and changes in relationship or artistic projects and aesthetics and perhaps in finances. We can adjust, we can make changes that are harmonious for all involved. Venus is in Pisces, where she's very, very happy. Uranus is in Taurus, which is Venus's sign. So their connections are going to be good. Their connections are going to be good. It's a closing sextile. It sort of suggests that maybe some things that have been tense and up in the air for the better part of a year could come to some kind of resolution, some sort of revision that makes maybe a tense situation a little bit more workable. Now, the last time that Venus and Uranus were in contact with each other, not very long ago, that happened on wait for it, January 14th. Now, that was a square aspect that had a little bit more energy. But as a square, we usually think that there's conflict. And so when Uranus and Venus square each other, we have relationship conflicts. But because they were in each other's sign, it was a dynamic energy that sort of suggested the ability to work things out. Maybe, to come to an understanding about things. Again, relationship, artistic projects, aesthetics, and so on. And now that Venus and Uranus are in this really harmonious relationship, something that was discussed or put on the table or that you've been trying to actually work on since around mid-January has an opportunity to be sort of, brought into a nice kind of acceptable, I don't want to say final version because nothing is ever really final, but maybe a little bit more of a stable version. At the same time, Chiron, the wounded healer, I'm fairly sure that's the way we should discuss him. Chiron will be meeting with Juno, partnership asteroid, Juno in Aries, or I should say really Aries. Juno is meeting with Chiron because she's the faster moving of the two. Here we're looking at a kind of opening up in partnership. This is a partnership relationship type of thing. It is a kind of, it's another one of those saying things very directly, but with an attitude towards, if I get this out, I can heal. Nice sort of movement here. We have Venus sextile Uranus. We have this Chiron Juno connection. And then we have the Mercury Pluto thing. Seems like it's a time to get stuff out there, put it on the table, say what you feel, say what you mean. Next week, we'll talk about it next week, but next week, truth teller asteroid Pallas Athene is going to station to go direct in the sign of Cancer. It suggests that next week, bookended by the Mercury Pluto and the Pallas Athene station, will be a time when getting stuff out there is, more or less what we're, it's the theme of the week. Let's put our thoughts out there. Let's tell it like it is, or, maybe not like it is, but as we see it. So we come away from the Leo full moon. Well, we don't just come away from the Leo full moon. We're right there at the Leo full moon as this week begins on Sunday. And yeah, it is about relationship, or it is about romance and things like that. But, the Leo full moon, I always describe it as the party moon of the year. And that's a good description. But at the same time, there's a lot of other things that are associated with Leo. I mean, actually, the sense of rulership, the sense of being in charge of your life, and creativity, right? There's a lot of creativity in the Leo full moon. It'd be a great time to deliver a product, a creative product or something like that. It'd be a great release date for a single or something like that. Anyways, we come off of that, go through the Virgo moon and then into the Libra moon as we progress through the week. And that's a little bit more of making stuff happen. And then that the inspiration of the Leo full moon sort of gets worked into a more usable form with the Venus-Uranus connection at midweek. And then I'm going to describe it as being a little bit of a shift in attitude when we say that the Mercury-Pluto conjunction, which is going to sort of color the end of the week, has a little bit more of a blunt kind of feeling to it, not quite as harmonious, but on the other hand, sometimes, saying what you need to say is quite an important thing. And I think I've said enough.